Hey folks, welcome back to the Priory podcast. My name is Dave Jackson. Welcome to my car. So today on the Priory, we have a 21-year Master Sergeant. He was an avionics troop in the early part of his career, then finagled his way into services slash MWR and worked for you know who down in San Antonio. He toured 3 times, 78, 80, and 83. The first 2 tours were as a performer. The third tour was as a tour director. He has 5 Rogers, 1 Wilco, and he is Thompson Blue royalty. He's a Golden Roger recipient. He was voted on the island. He's a thespian, a comedian, an incredible vocalist, does impressions like crazy. He did, and he's an author, so there's that too. There are no A's in Thompson Blue. However, we have a TA. TA Burrows is here on the Priory podcast today. So please enjoy my little chatty chat with the one and only TA Burrows. On you. All right, TA Burrows, man, dude, thank you so much for joining me on the Priory, brother. I appreciate it so much.
It is my pleasure. It absolutely is.
I'm a huge fan of yours, and I'm going to sit here and I'm trying to creep you out, man. But just watching you over the years, it's just been such a joy. And I got about a million questions for you, man.
Oh, well, we got time, so.
We got time to do it. Where are you located now?
I live in Glendale, Arizona. It's a suburb of Phoenix.
All right.
Been here about, my goodness, it's going on over 30 years now.
Holy crap. Wow.
hmm
Wow.
Yeah. So I retired at Davis Monthan up in Tucson. And then
So,
my wife and I
Davis
moved.
Mountain. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So when I retired, then my wife and I moved here to Phoenix. So we like the Arizona area. We love the weather.
Yeah.
So,
How could you not? Yeah.
mhm.
How long have you and your bride been married now?
Oh my goodness, we will be celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary next month.
I celebrate my 43rd next month.
All right,
Yeah,
awesome.
man. We're a rare breed, my friend.
I know we are. Very blessed though, very,
We are
very.
very blessed indeed. We are very
Mhm.
blessed indeed. Um, Before we get into anything blue and blue adjacent, on the information you sent me, what
Mhm.
aircraft did you work on in avionics?
So when I was an avionics technician, I started out working on B-52s
Yeah,
and KC-135s.
that's exactly what I started out on. Same
All
jets.
right.
Yeah.
So I went from there to working on F4s.
Oh,
I worked
wow.
on C-130s, AC-130s.
Wow.
Um, and that was it. Yeah. So I worked on the navigation system called Doppler.
Doppler.
Yeah.
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 What base was that at? Was a bombers at?
So the bombers were at that was at Loring Air Force Base in Maine.
Up in Maine. Yeah.
Left there, and after I left Loring, I went to Thailand. I was at Ubon Air Base in Thailand, and then from there to Clark Air Base in the Philippines. Was there for about 10 months, and then left there and went to Seymour Johnson in
Oh,
North
wow.
Carolina.
Yeah.
And then that was the end of my working on aircraft
Yeah.
career.
Did you retrain? Were you asked to come out of that career field? Or did you just say, I want to get out of this?
I was tired of working on the flight line. So what I did was I applied for a special duty assignment and ended up getting stationed at Chanute Air Force Base in Illinois as a student training advisor. So I worked in the firefighter squadron and in the auto mechanic squadron as a training advisor. And then from there, I went to Lackland. I was at Lackland also in another, I follow on special duty assignment for the security police squadron.
Okay.
So I was there for 3 years. And, then they told me, they said, well, now that that's all out of your system, it's time to go back to the flight line. And I was
Right.
like, no.
No.
So I made a phone call to Mr. Edwards, and he offered me a job at Air Force Entertainment.
Bada boom, bada bing. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's interesting because you kind of did the reverse of what I did. So I was a services troop my first 4 years
Okay. All right.
in RAF Bentwaters and Woodbridge, and
Mhm.
I was so taken by the A10s, because I drove by them every day, saw them,
Mhm.
the whole 9 yards, and I was like, I want to be on the flight line. I was just the opposite
Ah.
of you, the
Hmm.
exact
Hmm.
opposite thing. So yeah, so I was an engine troop all the way till the end of my career. I did a little bit of avionics and flight
Okay.
controls on the 16s, but my main forte was engines. And I started, like I said, I started on bombers and tankers.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
oh cool. So okay, so I guess my first question off the bat was five Rogers.
Yes.
You toured twice. You toured three times. Two as a performer. One as a tour director. Now
Yes.
explain the five Rogers part to me. How many worldwides did you go to?
So I so I went to six worldwides.
Really?
Pretty
Starting
good
in what
track.
year?
So my first year was I went in 76.
Okay.
Um and the first year that I went, it was a new thing to me. I had been doing impressions around the house, and I had been doing that since I was in high school.
Right.
And so when I got married, my wife and I was when we got stationed at Seymour Johnson. And like I said, it was just a hobby. I was just doing
Yeah.
it around the house. And so the base was having this talent contest. And my wife said, "Hey, you should join the talent contest, but you should, enter." And I was like, "To do what?" And she said, "Do your impressions. You're
Yeah.
funny around the house. Do it."
Right. Right.
So I wasn't thinking about doing this, but she convinced me.
Wow.
To this day, I still credit her. I would probably have never become an entertainer without her, prodding me on and supporting me and encouraging
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah.
I said, okay. So I signed up. Won at base level. I was absolutely floored. I was doing impressions. I did voices and some
Right.
comedy. And I thought that was it. I get my little trophy. I put it on the shelf. We're done.
Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
said, "Oh no, you have to go to the next level." So I went to TAC, won at TAC, and now I was like, "Hey, this is pretty cool. I like all of this." And they
Yeah.
said, "Well, now you go to Worldwide," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Worldwide? What is that?" So it was at Nellis and went to Worldwide, and I saw all these people and saw this program and heard about all this Tops and Blue, and I was like,
So you'd
"Oh,
never seen a show up to that point. You'd never seen a
I'd
blue
never
show.
seen the show up to that point."
Okay. All right.
So I was like, "Well, yeah, I've come this far. I got two trophies now. I want another one." Um,
Yeah.
and so I did not win. I was new, and the two guys that were there were excellent, excellent.
Well,
And I was just in awe of these people and all this talent. Um, and I probably would have been okay to just go home until the night when they presented the trophies.
okay.
And when I
Yeah.
saw those Rogers, I was like, "Oh no, I got to get one of those.
Right. Right.
I have to come back and get one of those." And
Right.
so that was just my goal from that point on. And I went home. Didn't get to compete the following year because I was PCSing. But after that, when I got to Chanute, I was like, okay, where's the base talent contest? When can I?
Yeah. You start digging, find out all the
Oh
info.
yeah, man, I
Yeah.
was like, I was hyped. So
Yeah.
got into base talent contest there. That was in '78. Got through TAC, not TAC. I was in ATC, so I got through ATC and got back to Worldwide, and I was loaded for bear.
Yeah.
Won a Roger that year, my first one, and I was so proud. I couldn't believe it.
Do you
Uh,
remember? Do you remember that on your first Roger? Do you remember the person that took the Wilco? Do you remember what that act was? What they did?
you know what? I'll tell you quite honestly, I do not. I remember the two guys who made the finals the year I
Uh,
didn't make it.
yeah.
Um, but I was so excited. And in fact, it's funny because I'm writing a book actually with my whole story about my entertainment career, and Tops and Blues, of
Oh,
course, is
nice.
starting that.
Yeah.
And I mentioned in
Breaking
the book,
news.
I mentioned I mentioned in the book that I was so excited. I don't remember who I beat. I don't know who the other guy was. I just know I won.
Wow.
And I was just so thrilled.
Yeah.
And then of course, after that, Tom announced Tops and Blue,
Yeah.
and he picked me for the tour. And then I
Second
was
time around, you made it.
Yeah, my second time at Worldwide, I made it, and I was just beside myself. I couldn't believe this, but um, that just got me into the whole mode of competing. And
Right.
so it's '79. I came back again because now I'm feeling like, well, I won a Roger. I got to come back and defend my honor.
Hmm.
So I went back again. I won in '79. I also won Best in Show of '79.
Oh, I was going to ask you that. I didn't see one on there on your thing, but you
Yep,
got a
yep,
best of show in '79.
yep.
Man,
First
sweet.
first comedian at Worldwide to win Best of Show.
Wow.
So came back
Wow.
again in 80, won again, 81, won again, and then my last year competing, which is 1982, I won my last Roger, my fifth, and my only Wilco, which I
Oh,
owe to Ed Knox.
oh. I was gonna kind of dig into that. I was gonna say, did you and Knox ever go to, ever go on, against each
Oh
other?
yes,
Obviously you
and
did.
Ed often reminds me. He says, "Oh, yeah, you got those five Rogers, but you got that one
One
Wilco."
Wilco. Yeah. That's funny. Did you
And I
ever?
will tell you because I would like to give a shout out to him. And I don't know where he is these days, but if anyone
I
knows,
would love to have Ed on.
um,
Absolutely.
Ed and I stay in touch all the time.
Yeah.
But during the other my second, third, and fourth years competing, I locked horns with my good friend Leon Johnson, who was a
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful comedian.
Mhm.
Very funny. We were really good friends, and we always loved to just have these battles
Yeah.
back and forth.
You
So we had some
guys are
we had some great
competitive.
times.
You're competitive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So that's the story of the Five Rogers. So
Wow. So out of all those five Rogers, other than Ed, other than you taking the Wilco and Ed taking the Roger that year, do you remember any of the other folks you competed against that took the
um
Wilco from your Rogers?
so I remember that in 82 I beat Leon Johnson.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
That was my nemesis.
Hmm.
And I mentioned Leon because the first year I competed, Leon competed and he made the finals. And
All right.
I was in awe of him. And so every year when I came back, I was always looking for Leon.
Right.
So
You figured he'd be there.
I was
Yeah.
expecting him to be there. So,
Yeah.
the first year that I actually won, Leon was not there. So I was a little disappointed. The next year when I came back, Leon was there, but he didn't make the finals.
Wow.
And then in 81, we both made the finals. I beat him. And then in 82, my last year, we both made the finals and I beat him. Yeah.
That's incredible how those paths kept crossing like that.
I know, right?
I mean, are there not a bunch of during that time period of your life and in the Air Force, was there not a bunch of comedians that were just
There really were, and there were some really good ones too.
yeah.
One of the stories I'll tell you is that in 81, the year that I had, that's the year I won a Roger for comedy, but I also competed in MC for the first time.
Oh, okay.
And I'd won at base, I had won at command. I was feeling pretty good about myself. Got caught up in the hype
Yep.
and got to worldwide, and I did not make the finals. And I was a little dismayed, but I owned it because I knew that I had come in there feeling a little too cocky
Hmm.
and just didn't do what I was supposed to do. I didn't prepare myself properly for
Yeah.
MC.
Yeah.
But that year, Sinbad won MC.
Oh, okay. All
And
right.
man, this guy, I'm telling you, I remember talking to him after he got his trophy, and I just said to him, "How did you organize your notes? I want to know how you did that because that was just
Yeah.
amazing to me." And he said, "What notes?" And I said, "Well, the notes, between the acts. How did you
Yeah.
know?" He said, "Oh, I just really winged a lot of that.
Oh,
That was off the
really?
top of my
Did
head."
he impromptu it?
Oh yeah. He said, "I knew the acts. I knew what they were going to do." He said,
Uh-huh.
"But I was just feeling it, and whatever I thought was going to work at the moment, that's what I was just like, this guy." And so we became really good friends from that moment on.
Wow.
Actually, I back up. We became better friends from that moment on.
Okay. All right.
Um, and he shared something with me that I will hold in my heart forever.
Okay.
And don't let me get to talking too much that I don't get
Oh,
to your
you're
question.
good. You're good. Keep going, sir. Keep going.
But one of the things that happened was when I was on Tops and Blue, because the second tour I went on in 80, I had some problems. I was missing my wife, my family. I wanted to go home, but um, I didn't. I ended up sticking it out. I finished the tour, and it's just one of those situations where you never know what happens and whose lives you affect.
Mhm.
When we're out there on the road. And so at 81 Worldwide, when I was talking with Sinbad, he told me, he said, "You know why I competed?" And I said, "Why?" He said, "It was because of you." And I said, "What, what do I have to do with it?" He said, "You were on Tops and Blue in 1980. You guys came to my base at McConnell in Kansas."
Okay.
He said, "I was there for the show." He said, "And I saw you on that stage doing comedy." And he said, "I was absolutely inspired." He said, I ran out of the theater after that show saying, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a comedian. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. He said, that was my inspiration.
You
He said,
inspired Sinbad to
he said, that's the reason I'm at Worldwide now. And I'm thinking, if I had gone home in 1980, if I hadn't finished that tour, and now, I'm not taking credit and saying that he wouldn't have still become a comedian and
yeah,
become
yeah,
all that
yeah,
he
yeah.
was, but you just never know who you
You had a
inspired
part.
to affect.
Yeah,
And I said, "Oh my God!"
that's
That's
incredible.
when we really connected and became friends, and we've been friends ever since.
That's
And
so great.
he still tells the story that I inspired him, and I'm just like, okay, I might have been your spark, but you
Yeah,
accomplished a lot of stuff on
yeah,
your
yeah,
own.
yeah,
So
yeah. You were still home and in front of the mirror working out your stuff. Yeah, yeah.
exactly, exactly.
So that's a great segue because when I read your story again in the Big Book of Blue
Hmm.
about the Greece when you wanted to quit tour
Yeah.
and you
Oh
had
yeah.
to take the place of a gentleman that
Yeah.
on Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of go over that a little bit. That was a
So
fascinating story to me.
yeah, we were at Araxis Air Base in Greece.
Mhm.
And I was, I was tired. I was missing my family. I really just, the tour was really kind of a grind that year. It was my second time, and I should have known what to expect, but it
Yeah,
was kind of a
usually the second time around. Usually.
right. Oh yeah. So I'm there, and I'm really in my mind. I'm just thinking, man, I'm gonna have to go home. I just have to. I'm gonna need to do this.
Were you
And
burned out?
so
Were you just burned
yeah, I
out?
was kind of burned out. That was part of it too. And I was just like, man, I hate to do it, but this is something I'm gonna have to do. And so
Mhm.
um, we were doing the show, we're getting ready to do the show, and the guy who did Michael Jackson in our show um, was not well, and he there was no way he could do the show. And the Jackson 5 part of our show was a big hit in the show. I mean, it was a big part of the Motown set, when we
Right.
had that whole set in the show. And so when we had been at staging, I every time the band was playing the Michael Jackson set, I would run downstairs and jump up on the stage and start singing all the songs because I'm an impressionist and that was
Yeah.
a voice I used to do, and so
Right.
I just had fun with it. But Jim Walker was our tour director, and so that night at Araxis, Jim said, I'm not going to cut the Michael Jackson set. He said we have to do the set, and so he said, T, I'm going to need you to do Michael Jackson. I'm like, what? He said, I saw you during the
Oh,
staging,
yeah, yeah,
up there.
yeah.
He said, so I know you know the songs. He said, so tonight you're gonna do it. And I was just like, I got all this other stuff to do. I mean, I had comedy bits and stuff to do,
So you had
all
to
this
do all that stuff plus Michael Jackson. You did all
right.
your
So
other stuff.
I'm like, okay, you know what? If you need me to do it, I'll do it, Jim. I'm your
Yeah,
guy. I'm here. So let's
yeah,
do it. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah. And then after this, I'm gonna be telling you how I'm going home. So
yeah. Oh, yeah,
um
that's right. In the back of your head. Yeah,
because that was it.
yeah.
So we get up, we get the show. I get up, I do the Michael Jackson, and again, I tell everybody, I wasn't the greatest Michael Jackson that Tops of Blues ever had, but I
Mhm.
thought I did okay. I did well enough. I got us through the show.
Yeah.
And when it was over, the show was over, the commander came out and he says, we give out hats as a symbol of appreciation to any special guests who come to Araxas. He said, but we don't have enough hats to give to the whole cast. He said, so I'm going to give out one hat. He said, I'm going to give it to the one person who I think epitomized Tops in Blue. And he said, this guy not only did all of these great impressions and comedy during the show, but when one of his castmates was unable to perform, he stepped in and did Michael Jackson for us tonight. And
How did he
everybody
find?
started
How did he
laughing and
that? Oh, so hang on. Who represented the hat? It was the who now? It was
he's
the.
this is the commander, the base commander.
How did he find out about that?
Well, he's at the show, and Jim had told him, we
Oh,
might have
okay.
to
I
change because
was
we
gonna
got
say
one of our
somebody must have
guys.
leaked the
He's not
info.
able, he's not able to perform tonight. So I just want to let you know to be able to change in what you see in the program and that kind of thing.
Ah, I gotcha.
Well, the commander calls my name, and I'm just like stunned,
Yeah,
absolutely stunned.
yeah.
And I go up to get this hat, and everybody is cheering. The audience is cheering. The rest of the cast is cheering me on. And I just looked out there at all of those people, and it was just like, I'm not going home. There's no way I'm going home.
Yeah.
I have to be here. I have to be here for my fellow cast members, and
Right,
I have to be here for these people that we perform for.
right.
This is
Do you
why
still have
I'm
that
out
hat?
here.
Do you still have the hat?
I still have the hat.
Oh, that's
I
great.
I kept that hat, man.
That's great.
But yeah, that's the
Wow.
story, man. So that, I mean, that was my, it was a defining moment for me. It was just like that, that was the moment when I was like, no, I know, I
It
understand
turned
now.
you around.
I understand why we're here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna finish this tour.
Did they utilize you for that at any point else in the tour? Did you have to do it again?
I did it another time during the tour.
All right.
Um,
That's
but
great.
yeah, but it was, man, it was like, and the funny thing about it was the Air Force Times was there, and they shot a picture of me doing Michael Jackson in the show, and it was the only time they shot a picture of the Michael Jackson set, and it was me doing the lead,
You. Wow. What are the odds?
right? So I mean,
That's
everything was like,
crazy.
yeah,
So the 78 tour,
uh-huh,
I'm going to age myself, and I don't mean to age you, but I'm aging myself now. I was a junior in high school,
okay,
78. So the Star Wars tour.
right,
So obviously I've never seen any tapes about it. Obviously I've read about it and whatnot.
hmm
But give me, I mean, obviously the theme was Star Wars, but was it
oh
like 20% Star Wars, 50%
no,
Star Wars,
so
hardly any Star Wars?
so the way the show worked out in '78, the Star Wars tour, we were taking the audience on a trip
Okay.
to Jupiter. And
Oh.
Tom had built he had built a small replica of R4 of R2D2.
Hmm.
And I mean we actually rolled it out on the stage from behind this curtain, and it was just sitting out there. I did the voice for it,
Oh, wow.
welcoming everyone to the show, telling them that we were taking this trip to Jupiter. Fasten your seatbelts.
This is awesome.
Oh yeah, it was cool. It was so cool. And when it first rolled out, people were just like, "Oh man!"
You
And
didn't break out in any,
no, it
you didn't break
didn't.
out in
Yeah,
any arts
we
and
had
stuff.
we had all the sound effects and the music, and that went with Star Wars to start off the show. And then I did the voice. Good evening, humanoids. Welcome to our
Right.
show. We are on our
Yeah.
way to Jupiter. And then we opened with this big. Our set had lights, and everybody was dressed in like spacesuits. Did our usual opening of up-tempo current songs from
Yeah.
that era, '78.
Mhm.
And then in the middle of the opening, a guy comes out. He was our dancer, Billy Veal. And he comes out as an alien
Okay.
on board our ship, sets off these big explosions on the ship, and causes us to go off course.
Oh, all right. The
And we
plot
break
thickens. All
through
right.
the international time barrier. And
Oh,
the rocket ship crash lands in 1953,
oh, I
which
see where we're going with this. Okay.
got it.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
25th anniversary of Thompson Blue.
Okay.
So
Yep.
we land in 1953. I come out now as Casey Kasem
Hmm.
doing our very first American Top 40.
Right.
And from 53, we go back forward in time through the years with different sets of music, all the way
That's
back to
awesome.
1978.
Wow.
And so that was the story.
Yeah.
And throughout the show, we're all still looking for this intruder and trying to get back on course and trying to get our way back to, the
Yeah.
present day, which we do at the very end. And then we culminated the show with a huge Star Wars, Star Trek finale.
Oh, you crossed the streams of Star
Oh
Wars and
yeah.
Star Trek?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Lights and music from both the TV show and from the Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Um, we did lightsabers, the whole nine yards. Yeah.
Wow. Was this a disco heavy show? Because that was the disco era also.
No, not actually. It wasn't disco heavy. It was more nostalgia.
Okay.
So the '79 show, which followed us, was a lot more disco. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
didn't do, we did, but we did, we were transcending time from the '50s to the '60s back into
Right.
the '70s. So
Yeah.
a lot of really good music,
No
from those
kidding.
different decades. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now the next time you toured, what was the theme of that show? You were
So
still a
the
performer, right? You weren't tour director until '83, right?
yeah,
Okay.
1980, the tour was called Music of America. And the theme of our show was it's always some traveling thing. So last time it was a spaceship, this time it was a train.
Oh, okay.
And we were going on a train trip to America's music capitals. So we went to Nashville, we went to Detroit for Motown,
Motown. Yep.
we went to New Orleans, we did a whole big jazz set.
That's
Uh,
a
it-
great premise.
oh
Wow.
yeah, it absolutely was. It was phenomenal. And then we culminated with Broadway. So we did a big Broadway, we did a whole bunch of songs from Broadway musicals and a big patriotic finish at the end.
What was the typical? No, I shouldn't say typical. What was your patriotic? What was your ending song on the '80s tour?
Let's see. In the 80s show, our last song was You're a Grand Old Flag because we did a big, the whole cast came out. Everybody had flags.
Uh-huh.
And Tom had choreographed this big display of the flags where they were all interwoven and moving and back and forth. And it was just a big, yeah, it was
I would
absolutely
love it. I
phenomenal.
gotta find. I gotta. Some of these videos have got to be someplace.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The 80 show was a lot of fun. It's the first time I also worked with another comedian. So Jim Dale was on the tour with me, and he and I both were the comedians on the show. We had a great time. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
We had so
Wow.
much.
And you almost quit that tour.
That was the tour I almost quit. Yeah, that was that 80 tour. But you know what? I was so glad that I saw that tour through.
Yeah, no
Um,
kidding.
it's funny because the things that happen on the tour, and a lot of this is in my book. But the things that happen on the tour, you don't get that kind of experience anywhere else. You
Mhm.
know, it was like one of a kind things that happened. I had to learn how to perform when I was sick. I had to learn how to perform when I didn't feel well. I had to learn how to perform when I wasn't getting along with everybody.
Right.
Um, but the show always came first, and Tom was so wonderful in teaching us that, and the lessons we learned there. And Jim Walker was tour director for both the tours that I was on
Yeah.
as a performer, and I learned so much from him. And so I'm just thankful that I had the opportunity to go out and tour as a performer, and just I mean, if not for Tops and Blue, I would not. There's no way I would be the performer I am today. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So '83, you're a tour director.
yep.
What was the theme of that tour? Give me the rundown on that show.
So our show in 1983 was called The Land of Make Believe.
Okay.
And Ed Knox was our comedian, he and Rich Nemeth. The show started out as a game show
Okay.
called called Live in Your Dreams.
Okay.
Ed was the host, Monty Genie.
All right.
And uh, um, Rich Nemeth, who played a character called Ebner Fubble, was a contestant.
These are
He
great
was a
names.
contestant that we picked out of the audience.
Oh, okay.
And the theme of the game show was we pick one person out of the audience, we bring them up on stage, and we let them pick their dream. And whatever their dream is, we try to fulfill it. And of course, we did our opening number featured a lot of different choices. So he could
Uh-huh.
have become a circus clown. We did a big clown thing. He could become a pirate. We did a big pirate number. Um, he could become an entertainer. And of course, that, is what he finally chose.
Right.
Um, and coincidentally, so if you watch the Super Bowl show,
Hmm.
the Super Bowl halftime show,
Right.
the whole basis of that came off of our show.
Oh,
So,
really?
yes, our opening set the stage for what that Super Bowl show was going to be. So,
Oh, interesting.
yes, it was during that 83 show, that 83 staging that Tom was negotiating with the NFL to see about getting the Super Bowl. And
Right.
so our show had all those elements in the opening. So the pirate number, uh, the entertainment, becoming a star, becoming an
Right.
entertainer, that number, the circus number, those were all songs from our show. So Ebner eventually chooses that he wants to be an entertainer, and so
Mhm.
Ed takes him on a tour of different types of entertainment, different venues.
Right.
So we went to a country western bar, and the cast did a whole big, country western set.
That. Yeah.
We went to a jazz nightclub. We did a big jazz set with a lot of, jazz numbers. He took him to Broadway, and at Broadway we did Dreamgirls. So we did a
Oh,
whole
no
set
way.
of the
Wow.
musical Dreamgirls, a condensed
Wow.
version of the whole show of Dreamgirls. Yeah, yeah,
Holy crap.
yeah. And so it was a phenomenal show. It was awesome. And then we culminated with the fact that if you believe in your dreams and you believe in, in your heart what you want to do, you can achieve anything.
You can
So,
achieve anything. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. So do you find, I've been on both sides now, tour director and performer
hmm
side. Did you find the tour director, which one did you find harder, more difficult?
I think,
At
I
the
think
very
being,
least, more challenging.
yeah, being the tour director was more challenging to me. And I think the reason for that is because, as an entertainer, obviously, you have your one niche. You have the thing that you do that
Yeah.
contributes to the show.
Mhm.
And of course, it's important. It's critical. But as the tour director, you're responsible for everything that happens. From the moment people wake up in the morning till the moment they go to sleep at night, everything is
Yeah.
on your plate.
Yeah.
Uh, and making sure that we got, there were so many things that going into the job as the tour director, even though I had been on tour twice, I had seen all of this stuff. There's so much I had no idea what Jim
Yeah.
Walker did.
Yeah. Amen.
And so, and fortunately for me, Jim was a great sounding board. So I could call Jim all the time. And I did. I talked to Jim all the time about Jim, what do you think about this? How do I handle this?
Right.
What do I do here? What did I do there? Of course I talked to Mr. Edwards, obviously. But I just realizing that, the bus has got a flat. What?
Let me go through my little book of how to do this now. Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? And that's my trouble because, oh, that's right. I'm a tour director. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
got to make
Yeah.
sure we get to the next base. I got to figure
Yeah.
how we're going to, all right, I'll go make some phone calls. I'll find a place, and so there were a lot of things to deal with, a lot of, we'd get to a place and, we had to hang the truss upside down because of the configuration of the venue that we were in.
Mhm.
And that took extra time. And so, now I had to break the news to the cast that, hey, we're probably not going to get back to, get any rest, because we got to do this special kind of setup. And,
Yeah.
there were a lot of challenges as the tour director. But I had a cast that, you know, full disclosure, all casts have their issues.
Correct.
We certainly had ours, but I had a cast that we could do anything. That cast would do anything and everything we had to do to make sure that that show came off flawlessly every single night.
Hmm.
Our favorite saying was, "We always rose to the occasion." So
Yeah.
whatever the challenge was, we met it.
Right.
No matter what it was, we always met the challenge, and the show was beautiful every night.
I am fascinated when I talk to the folks, you know, the whole back in the day thing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always fascinated by, you toured in two different decades.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, was there anything technologically changing between 78 and 83? What was the biggest thing on the road that you saw that was like, when you got to 83, you said, well, back in the day, we
Yeah.
used to use,
Yeah. Well,
marble trusses or
it's
whatever.
really easy. It's really easy to make that differentiation. When I toured in 78, we had a bus. It was a Greyhound bus. It was a Greyhound bus that Tom chartered from Greyhound. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, not a Greyhound. It was a Trailways bus,
Oh, okay.
and it was chartered from Trailways,
Uh-huh.
and it came with the Trailways driver,
Oh,
who
wow.
was our tour driver.
Wow.
And that's all we had was a bus.
Yeah.
There was no truck. Everything went on the bus.
Shut up.
Everything.
Just a bus?
Sound equipment, the lighting, everything went on the bus. It
How
was
is
all
that
in the bottom of the
possible?
bus. Our suitcase, we had those big
Your stuff.
trunks.
Yeah.
Each cast member had a trunk. They
Trunk.
also went on the bus inside the bus where we were, because they took out a section of seats and we stacked those trunks inside the bus with us.
And you folks are probably thinking you're still the coolest cats around. You got your bus.
We got a bus. We put big Thompson Blue stickers on the windows, on the side windows of the bus, so
Yeah.
people knew it was Thompson Blue. It was a Trailways bus.
Wow. And this was all stateside, right? Was there anything overseas? Was it all
We went
stateside?
overseas in
Oh,
'78. We
wow.
went overseas. Oh yeah, yeah. But on the stateside, everything went in the bus. There was no truck,
That's
none.
incredible.
Everything went in the bus. Now in '80, we got a truck,
Oh,
but it wasn't a tractor trailer. It was essentially a bread truck. It's like a van. Like it was
a
really
panel
small.
van. Like a
Yeah,
panel van.
yeah,
Wow.
really small, really small. There was no, I mean, it was like the size of the cargo compartment of the truck was about half the size of the bus. And
Wow.
everything went in there. And in '83, we were the first tour to get a tractor trailer.
Trailer. Is that true? Really? The first tour for a tractor trailer?
Absolutely. We were the first ones to get it.
Wow.
'83. And it was not blue. It was red. So how do you like that? We were
Did you
the
put
first
stickers
ones.
all over that?
Oh, we didn't have to. It was
Oh.
our truck.
Oh, but it was
That's
red.
the first time it was painted with the Thompson Blue logo on
Oh,
it.
okay, good. Okay, that was my
I
next
have
question.
pictures of it. Yeah, but it was red. It was not blue. It was a red truck.
That's bizarre.
It was a
That is
red
bizarre.
tractor trailer. And the bus from '83 was the first time we had our own bus.
Ugh.
That was
You had too
our
many
bus.
firsts. You had too many firsts, TA.
That
Too
was
many
yeah,
firsts.
yeah, yeah. So it was. Well, I'm sorry. Look, I got to back up. No, we were the second tour to have the bus
Oh, okay. Okay.
because the '82 tour also had the bus, and I remember that because Tom had sent. I was working at the office, and Tom had
Oh,
sent me out to check on the tour, make sure everything was good with the tour. We went out there, and so. Oh, you know what? I'm getting all mixed up here. Let me back all the way up.
I mean, you did a lot. I expect a little bit of confusion here.
And I'm old, dude. I'm like 73. So the '80 tour that I went on was the first tour to have the bus. The
The
bus
bus.
as we
Okay.
know it.
Okay.
Yes, the bus as
Right.
we know it. Yes. So
Right.
we had the bus and then we had that little bread truck.
Okay.
But we were the first ones to get that bus because before that, the buses were always buses that Tom had leased from
Okay.
somebody else.
Right.
They were from Trailways, they were from some other bus company. In '79 they had a different bus, but we in '80 were the first ones to get the bus.
Okay.
But in '83 we were the first ones to get the tractor trailer, and man,
You thought you were.
we were like in seventh heaven. Look at
I was
all
going to
this.
say all this room for activities.
But the truck was red. So the bus was blue, the bus was big blue, the truck was big red.
I had no idea.
Uh-huh.
I had no idea. Um. So okay, I'm gonna go through the list here.
All right.
Stand up,
Yeah.
vocalist,
Yeah.
comedian. I know
Yeah.
you do impressions, so that kind of falls under the category of comedy. If you had to stack those by favorite, what you enjoy the most,
Hmm.
how would you do it? Where would you stack them?
I love to sing.
So that's primary.
I love singing more than
Yeah.
anything I've ever done.
Okay.
And the fact is that the first year that I competed, I competed only as a comedian.
Uh-huh.
When I went to the Thompson Blue audition, I was like I gotta sing. They were like, yeah, you have to. I was like, oh, that's not probably gonna go well.
Yeah.
Um, but once I realized that that was an important part of it, and I wanted to come back and be a part of Thompson Blue, then my focus was I have to learn to sing. I have to teach myself to sing or find a way to learn to sing. And I started working on trying to sing. And when I came back in '78, I could sing a little bit.
Mhm.
And Tom gave me a solo in the show. I got to do a Nat King Cole song in the show.
What?
And
That's
I was like,
awesome.
okay, I'm liking this singing thing. And
Yeah.
So then, the next year when I competed, I came back and I actually competed at base level and command level as a vocalist and
What?
comedian. Yeah, I did. I
Two
didn't get
categories. Two
past,
categories, same year.
yeah, I didn't get past command level as a vocalist. I did as a comedian. But at that point, singing became the thing that I was like, man, this is what I want to do. And of course, being on the tour and the music, and I was just like hooked. So
Yeah.
um, once I got an opportunity to do some singing, I just grabbed that, and that has been my favorite thing to do.
Well, I mean, you're also a thespian.
Yes.
So where does that fall in the scheme of things?
Well, I would say, and this is going to be so weird because, I made my mark as a stand-up comedian.
Hmm.
That's the thing that I did. It's the thing that got me into this business.
Right.
Um, it got me into Tops and Blue. It got me into performing in Las Vegas. It got me into opening for a lot of, named celebrities. And it was the thing I always hung my hat on was my stand-up comedy. Those are my roots. They will always be my roots. Um, but once I was able to learn other things started to become like, you know, my second and third loves. And,
Right.
so I would say singing first, acting second, and then stand up. So yeah,
Really?
I loved
I would
being
have
in
never guessed that. I would have definitely I wouldn't have I wouldn't have pegged that. I would have gone comedy, thespian, singing. I would have thought
it.
singing was, so I figured your primary would be comedy.
Yeah,
That's
no,
interesting
no,
to me.
no,
That's
no, no.
interesting. Wow.
I absolutely love
Yeah.
singing.
And you are darn good at it, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
You are
I just
very
feel,
good.
I feel really blessed. And again, I know if people listen to me, and I know sometimes when I finish this book, which will be probably late this summer, um, when it comes out, people are going to read it and they're going to be like, okay, what else besides Tops and Blue? Because
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
going to be
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of Tops and
Well,
Blue in there. But I learned so much about everything that I do
mhm,
from Tops and Blue. I
right,
learned singing from Tops and Blue. I learned acting from Tops and Blue. Stage presence and all of those little elements that go
right.
to putting it all together with things that I learned on Tops and Blue. And so, when I get to the point where now I am a singer. This is all I do.
Yeah,
In my shows, I do a little bit of comedy because I still love telling some jokes, and so
right.
in all my shows I throw a little bit of comedy in it just to
Who, who
lighten
doesn't
it up.
like who doesn't like to make people laugh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But singing is the thing that I love more than anything else, and I'm singing about 150 shows a year, so
Wow.
um,
Did you just say 150?
150. Yes.
Dude, wow. Wow.
Yeah, 3 or 4 times a week.
What do you think if you look back
Hmm.
specifically on stage performers with Blue, was there
Hmm.
any specific uh, mistake or on-stage tragedy that happened with you that sticks out in your head? Anything just really pops in your mind that just went totally wrong? That just every
So,
prior usually has a story that really hits them with something went bad on stage. Give me a TA on stage. This is what happened story.
so, wow, on stage.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, not the dressing rooms,
Well,
not in the bus, not in the
here's one of the
van,
things
on
I'll
stage.
tell you, I'll tell you something that happened during the show, but I'll tell you something that I had to do that I had to get very comfortable with, and it was really hard to do.
Oh, do tell.
So, so one of the things that we did in the '80s show is it was the Music of America tour, um, and I in that show I played the character Moms Mabley.
Okay.
And so in the Detroit set, I'm Mom's Mabley, and so I'm
Uh-huh.
standing there. I got this dress on, and and the
Yeah,
shawl, and the wig, and I'm doing Mom. Yeah, I'm doing Mom Mabley, baby.
yeah,
I'm doing some Mom Mabley. Well, we go from Detroit to Nashville.
yeah.
So Tom says to me, "You're going to have to change clothes," and I said, "Oh yeah, okay." He says, "Because I want you to put on, cowboy boots and and all of this." And yeah, okay, I can do that. That's not a problem. He said, but you can't leave the stage. because the cast is changing. I said, what are you saying? He says,
what I'm saying.
you're gonna have to make this costume change in front of the audience.
How logistically did you manage that? What did you do there?
I'm like, say what now? No, I want you to, he said, yeah, this is gonna be part of the show. He said, you're gonna be talking the whole time. He said, but I want you to come out of Mom's Mabley. And actually, I'm getting them reversed. It was the other way around. I was going from Country Willie into Mom's Mabley.
Country Willie. All right.
Right.
Okay.
Country Willie. Yep, Country Willie. And so he said, so you're going to take all this stuff off and put this dress on in this show. So I'm like, you do realize I'm going to have to take pants off, right? He said, yeah. He said, we'll have you in some boxers. So I did it. I had to make this costume change.
How far in the tour was this going on?
This went on all this. Well, I did this. This was every night. This was in the show. It was just
from beginning of the tour to the end of the tour. You had to do this change, this clothes
from
change.
the beginning. Tom had me making that change right there in front of everybody. Yeah, go ahead. Just. It's just like,
wow.
Okay.
If somebody's got a video of that, I would really like to see that, please. That would be wonderful.
So that was probably my biggest challenge on stage, that I had to do that. It was embarrassing, but I did it. The audience ate it up. They were just laughing. They thought
I was gonna say, how'd that go over with the?
Yeah, they thought.
Was there music to it? Was it like a strip act, or what?
Because everybody had to leave the stage. They all had to go change.
There was no band. I mean, even the band, even the instrumentalists.
Well, no, the band. Well, yes, because the band was in country western outfits. They had to go put on this Motown stuff. So
they left too.
They were all gone. It was just me on the stage.
I need a video of this. That's hysterical.
So that's what happened there. The other thing that happened, and this is something Ed and I laugh about. There are actually two things I'm going to tell you, but this is something that we laugh about a lot. So I don't remember where we were. I think we were somewhere in Texas. And in our show, we had these big giant books in the opening. Okay. Because when the show starts with the game show and Ebner has to pick what he wants to do, there are these big giant books that he can choose something from one of these books that he wants to be. And the books were made out of these big giant sheets of board, and they were raised up in the air. Mm-hmm. And as the opening unfolded, the books are rolled off the stage. And when they're rolled off, we have to loosen the knob and drop these books down so that they could fit to go off stage.
Right.
And I always helped with that, even though I was the tour director, but I always helped with that because we needed an extra hand. Yeah. So one night we're doing this. We've done this 1,000 times. I'm rolling the book off stage. I loosen the thing, and the pole slips, and the whole book comes crashing down, hits me right in the head.
Was this thing made of plywood? Was this a big flat type of thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Back in the day, we used real wood.
Hits me right in the head, knocks me down on the ground. I'm there, head is bleeding. Everybody's like, oh my God. And somebody said, oh my God, TA is, he's like knocked out. We got to do. So they called the paramedics, right? Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, it was that bad. Yeah. So I'm there and I'm like, my head is like pounding and the blood and the whole nine yards. And Ed is backstage. The paramedics come. They came right away. Uh-huh. They're lifting me up and putting me on the gurney. And I call Ed and I'm like, Ed, come here.
I got something to tell you.
Well, I'm sure he's thinking he's going to tell me to call Tom. He's going to say, let my wife know I'm okay or something like that. Yeah. So Ed says, what is it? And I said, somebody has to do my voiceover for Dreamgirls.
That was the first thing on your mind. The show must go on. Very, obviously.
Somebody's gonna have to do my voiceover for Dreamgirls.
Wow! Did that do it? Did it go off okay?
Don't worry about that. Just go to the hospital. We'll figure it out.
Dude, you got a 4-inch gash in your head. Shut up and go to the hospital.
Yeah, I'm just about concussed here, but I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, Dream Girls. We got to do Dream Girls.
Wow.
The other story I always love to tell, so I'll share this with you
Oh
quickly.
yeah, please, please.
So in the show, same show,
Uh-huh.
at the end of the show, Ed, who is a wonderful magician, by the way,
Oh.
comes out and he does this trick with these foam balls. They're red foam balls, um, and they're sponge balls. So he picks somebody from the audience, and he has them, and he manipulates them, whatever. But the very first part of the trick, he hands the balls to the person, and he says, "Can you tell me what these sponge balls are made of?" So of course it's sponge foam, blah blah. So one night I'm back at the soundboard, and we have the voiceover mic. So Ed hands the guy the balls and says to the guy, "So can you tell me what these balls are made of?" And he puts the mic in front of the guy. I killed his mic, and over the over the mic I said, "Wood."
Why did you do that, TA? What was going through your mind?
Ed and Rich started laughing hysterically.
I bet.
It took him almost a minute to recover because he just wasn't expecting.
Did he?
Hey, tell me what these balls are made of. Wood.
Wow. You didn't get in any trouble for that, did you?
No, I was the tour director, so
Yeah. I mean,
but he was just we still laugh about that to this day. Whenever Ed texts me or I text him, the first thing we always send to each other is wood.
I was going to say wood balls, but just as wood. Well, that's fine too.
Yeah.
So, comedian wise, let's break this down again. So, comedian wise, acting, singing. Let's go start with singing. Who's your go-to? What artist still gives you goosebumps?
Oh, I have a couple. I would say, and they're from back in the day. So Nat King Cole, certainly.
Yeah.
Johnny Mathis, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I was a big Johnny Mathis fan. I'm a big Frank Sinatra fan. I love his music. Sammy Davis Jr. For several reasons. One, his singing, also the different talents that he had, and he's always been my idol. So
right. Yeah.
part of the reason that I love doing all the things that I got to do was because of Sammy. Because he's just so multi-talented, singer, actor, comedian, did impressions,
did it all.
Dancer, just did it all. And so that's the guy that I always looked up to. But of the singers, I think for back in the day, those are my main guys. I love a lot of I love rock and roll. So I do a lot of, in my shows, I do a lot of 50s and 60s rock and roll. I love all of those great hits from the past. People are surprised, I'm a big Elvis Presley fan.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I love Elvis. I loved his music. My wife and I have been to Graceland. His talent was just off the charts for me.
Yeah.
I would say those are the guys who I think have influenced a lot of my music. The songs that I like to sing the most.
Right. Now, what about comedy? Who's your go-to for comedy?
Well, I grew up watching impressionists. So when I started out my career, that's what I did. I didn't really tell jokes. I hung my hat on being able to do voices. And so, for me, it was people like Rich Little.
That's a Rich Little time frame, right?
Oh yeah. Frank Gorshin. There was a black impressionist named George Kirby, who I used to watch all the time. And then comedy itself, that was a lot of different people. I mean, I loved Bob Newhart. I loved Bill Cosby. I love to watch Mom's Mabley was one of my favorites, and that's where I developed that impression of doing Mom's Mabley because I just loved her comedy so much.
I was addicted to Flip Wilson.
Oh yeah, Flip Wilson too. Absolutely.
I could not wait for that show. Cannot
Absolutely,
wait for
yeah.
that show to come
And
on.
that, he was the impetus for me performing as characters, different characters, because I
Yeah, yeah,
loved, when he did Geraldine and when he
yeah.
did the Reverend, and
Yep.
so for me, it was those are the people I think that were my biggest influences.
Is there a comedic bit that just to this day, if you hear it, not one of yours, a comedic bit from any of the folks in the past or even now, that you just have if it comes on YouTube or whatever, you have to watch it, have to listen to it. Is there any whether it's Rodney Dangerfield or whoever, is there any comedic bit that just makes you roll every
Um,
time?
I would say, I would say at this point, probably any of the Bill Cosby stuff.
Especially the early
Story,
Cosby stuff.
his story about the chicken heart.
Oh, that's such a classic. That
I
is
was spreading
such a classic.
Jello, man. I was spreading that Jello. Um, I think I own all of Bill Cosby's albums, and
Uh,
so I listen to that stuff constantly.
yeah.
That's a big part of it for me. Um, and
What?
and I think that's and I will say this, to this date, Sinbad for me
Yeah.
right now is still
I was
one of the
going to
greatest
ask. I have
ever.
Sinbad's got to be up there, right?
I've I've had an opportunity to go to his shows. He's invited me to come out and and watch him perform and stuff like that. And he still cracks me up. And anytime he's on anything, doing anything, I'm usually watching.
You're gonna watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about actors? Is there any actors that you gravitated to?
Um, acting for me was a different thing. There were no particular actors, I think, that influenced me the way that music and comedy did. But I studied a lot of the actors that I saw in movies. And like I would watch movies and just look for things. Um, Most of my acting training has come from really, really good directors
Oh, okay.
um, who have been just excellent teachers of acting. And I learned a lot about it from them. Um, and a lot of times people are surprised when I talk about my acting because while I did more than my fair share of musicals
Hmm.
and comedies, and I have some favorite roles that I did, my favorite thing to do as an actor was doing drama.
Really?
Yes,
Really? Because it was
yes,
more of a challenge, or why?
because it was more of a challenge.
Yeah.
And there was a lot more emotion involved. And I've had some great acting roles. I mean, I got to be the devil in Damn Yankees. That was hilarious. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I got to play Hoke in Driving Miss Daisy, which was very poignant.
Yep.
Um, but I also got to play Kevin Bacon's role as the prosecutor in A Few Good Men.
No way. Is there a tape? Do
Yes.
you have a tape of that? Is that viewable
Um,
anywhere?
I don't have a tape of it. I have some photos from that show, but
Oh,
yeah, that was the first time I got to do some serious drama. And
yeah.
once I did that, I was hooked on doing drama. So um, I got to do that.
Interesting.
That was an amazing role. Learned a lot there. And then from there, I've had several other roles. I played a convicted killer before. I've played other roles where I've been, I was a guy who was a black racist. I've played, yeah, so some serious stuff.
Yeah.
But the theater became a love for me, just an absolute love for me, and that all really started with music, with being in musicals. But then I got to branch out and do some other stuff in theater, and so
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
That's amazing. What we when last week we had a remembering Bernie Roan episode on,
Oh, Bernie. Yeah.
and Walt Campbell said something that stuck with me. I even wrote it down here.
Hmm.
He said, "There's certain priors that you have to say their full name." So we went through the list: Bernie Roan, Percy Lewis, uh, Jim Walker.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, well, I think I wrote them down here. Dave Sullivan,
Hmm.
JB.
Hmm.
Is anybody you want to add to that list? That's a pretty comprehensive list, I might add.
That's a very comprehensive list. There are some people I think that and again, it's only because I go way, way back.
Mhm.
Um, there were people like Faith Sullivan.
Oh, oh, oh. That's exactly right. Thank you.
You know,
I need to write that down here in a minute.
when
That's
we start looking at those
perfect.
people who were iconic, Faith Sullivan was one of the most amazing vocalists that Thompson
Mm,
Blue has ever had.
agreed.
Um, she was just phenomenal. There was a lady, and a lot of people don't know her, I'm sure, because it was way early when I toured, or it was actually at Worldwide back in the 70s,
Mm.
named Normia Jordan, um,
Oh,
who is now Normia Carter. I'm still
yeah.
friends with her on Facebook, see her periodically, but she, another one of those phenomenal vocalists.
Mm.
Doug Washington,
Oh,
um,
Doug Washington. See,
dancer
I know the
extraordinaire.
name. I just don't know where in history.
Yeah, dancer extraordinaire. My first year at Worldwide, Doug was there. I watched him dance. I was just in awe.
Yeah.
He was just an absolutely incredible dancer and just so talented. Those are some names that stand out for me. And speaking of Jim Walker, I just want to point out because a lot of people don't know, um, Jim was an amazing entertainer.
Oh, I
Uh, Jim, my first year at Worldwide, was both an MC and he was in drama. And he was just,
drama.
oh, yes, yes.
Interesting.
He did a piece called Judgment Day, and it was just so powerful. I mean, absolutely powerful. He won a Roger for it. Yeah, he was there that first year that I competed in 1976. He was one of the first people that I really took note of. And I was just like, wow, this guy. Yeah. Little did I know that a few years later would be my tour director.
Yeah, no kidding.
And a guy
So,
with an amazing sense of humor.
yeah, I agreed. Would you
Mhm.
say that Jim Walker? I always try to find out who, if a prior has a certain mentor. Would you say that was Jim?
Jim and Tom for me.
Jim and Tom. Yep.
Yeah, Jim and Tom for me. In different ways.
Yeah.
Um, Jim, my first tour, 78, Tom was intimidating to me. I was just intimidated by him. I had been intimidated by him from my first interaction with him in 76 when I went out for that interview with him the first time.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm writing a lot of comedy, and for comedians, it's usually a case of you write a whole lot of stuff and you take it up and you say, "Okay, here it is," and he goes,
That's
"Nope."
crap.
You go, "Okay." So for
What
me,
else you got?
yeah, Jim was the guy I could always go back to and say, "Hey, Jim, what do you think of this?" And I mentioned in my book that if Jim liked something, he'd smile and he'd nod. If he didn't like it, he would just give you that Jim Walker stare.
I
but
know that
but
stick.
it was helpful. And he would
Yeah.
always tell you, you need to try this or do this or do this. But he was the guy I could always go to, and he was always accessible. It didn't matter what I needed to talk to him about,
Mhm.
what advice I needed. He would critique my performances in a good way and in a way that was helpful. And um, he just really, really taught me an awful lot about being a professional, about being an entertainer, about, I grew up in Thompson Blue for the most part for me. And
Yeah.
so I learned a lot, about being a man from Jim Walker and just how to carry myself and, what that entailed.
Yeah.
Um, as far as Tom goes, Tom helped me in so many ways, and a lot of times it was subtly. I learned a lot watching him. I learned a lot watching how he put shows together and how he, why he chose, I would ask him, why did you pick that song instead of this song? And he would take the time and he would tell me, but I
Mhm.
watched a lot of that and how he, from Tom, I learned about doing things first class, about doing things, if you're going to do it the best. Do it the
Yeah.
best you can do it. There's no,
Yeah.
never half step anything.
Right.
Um, I remember him and I had a conversation one time. We were talking, and I was just going off about Leon Johnson. Leon Johnson was my guy. I was so impressed with Leon, and I was telling him, yeah, I mean, Leon. He said, yeah, Leon is very good. I said, yeah. He says, but you know what? He says, you have something Leon doesn't have. And I said, what's that? And he said, you have the ability to be able to perform in any situation. He said, Leon's comedy is specific. It's more for specific audiences. It'll play in some places and it won't play in other places.
Mhm.
He said, you have to remember, you have to be able to perform anywhere at any time for anyone to
Well,
be successful.
that's just a telltale chops thing, right? If you can do if you can do impromptu off the top of your head, make it make sense, make people laugh with it. I mean, that's a gift, my friend. Am
When
I
he
right? That's a
told me
gift.
that, when he said that to me, I was like, wow. He said, and I think you can do that. He said, but you have to remember that. He said, so when you're writing, when you're putting things together, when you're putting comedy together, I was, at that time I was just doing comedy. He said,
Yeah,
that needs to be the thing that sticks in the back of your mind. You be able to perform anytime for anyone at anywhere. There should be no time that somebody asks you to come and perform that you can't do it
yeah.
because of
So
your
you're ready to
material
go.
or because
Yeah,
of, who's
all
going
the
to be
bows are in
there.
your quiver. You're ready to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then on top of that, Tom gave me so many opportunities,
Mhm.
that I was able to perform that I learned each time I did that. I mean, it was great to go on Tops and Blue 3 times, as a tour director and also as a performer. But whenever something was going on, no matter what it was, I mean, Tom called me for the Garden State Bowl. And I was like, me? I'm a comedian. He goes, we need some people. I need you to come. You can carry a tune. Come sing. I was
Yeah.
like, okay.
All right.
I was at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Garden State Bowl. I performed, in front of those, however many thousand people were in that Garden State Bowl stadium.
Right.
He had me anytime that there was some major event going on. I did so many military functions as an MC, as a comedian, as a host for banquets and conferences, and
Mhm.
anytime there was anything, he would call me.
Yeah.
When Tops and Blue did the Bob Hope show for Bob's anniversary in '87
Mhm.
at Pope Air Force Base, Tom called me. He said, "I
Yeah.
need you to come in," and I was like, "Okay." I said, "What's up?" He said, "This is a very small thing, but it's a very important thing." He said, we're going to be doing a show. He said that Bob Hope's doing his, birthday thing and NBC is filming and all these celebrities are going to be here. He says, and after it's over, we're having a dinner at the Officers Club. I need a host. I need somebody to
No
come
way.
host. And I said, oh, he said, so that's what I need you to do. And I said, anytime Tom asks me for something, I'm always like, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. So
Right.
I went and he said, okay. He said, so, everybody's going to be there. He says, and I want you to come out. He said, I want you to do some comedy. He says, and then, I want you to host the evening. Tops and Blue is going to do a performance this evening, but I want you to be my host for the show for that evening. And
I
I
got
said,
goosebumps. I've got goosebumps from this story already. This is
oh, are
insane.
you kidding me? So I'm there and I'm like looking at this guest list and I'm like, Lucille Ball, Bob Hope.
And you have it written down. You don't have anything in your set. You don't know what you're gonna. You had
I,
to read that first to figure out what your
I'm all
set's
right.
gonna be.
Well, I mean, I had some general idea, but I'm like, Phyllis Diller was there.
This
I'm
is
like, this
crazy.
is comedy royalty.
Right. Right.
So I mean, I'm go. That's like saying, I'm gonna go and play some basketball with Michael Jordan. I mean, you know, I'm gonna come out here and try to make these people laugh. But he said, he had faith in me. He told me that that's what he wanted me to do, and I'm like, okay. And so that night they were all there. Brooke Shields was there. I forgot the young man. Kirk Cameron was there, and there were a couple of other stars that were there. But those three in particular. I mean, Phyllis Diller and Bob Hope and Lucille Ball. I mean, I'm a huge Lucille Ball fan.
Yeah.
Bob Hope, love Bob Hope.
Yeah.
So I host this dinner, and I went out and did like 6 or 7 minutes worth of comedy, did some impressions. They laughed.
Oh my
I would
goodness.
never ever need any validation again in my life.
Yeah. 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 I can go now. I'm good.
I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm
Yeah.
good. Um, I mean, so he just was constantly calling me for opportunities. We're doing a show down in San Antonio with Lee Greenwood. I need you to come and open.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm there. We're flying to Florida because of the that hurricane that hit, and all those people are just in need of some entertainment. Tops and
Oh,
Blues going to go
Andrew.
down there and at Homestead Air Force Base, and they're
Yeah.
going to do a show. But I'm gonna need some comedy.
Hmm.
but it's going to be kind of dicey because you got to remember these people have lost everything
Right.
and they're not in really a mood to laugh, but they need to laugh. They need to be,
We're
they
gonna
need
nudge
their
them.
spirits brightened. And we can do it with the music, but we need a host. We need somebody to come in and just, bring that element to the show.
Hmm.
Hey, I'm there. I'm your
How
guy.
many worldwides did you work?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I'll be honest. I lost track. I really lost
Fair
track.
enough.
I would say that from 78 until the last worldwide, which now
Uh,
I don't even remember what year that was. Um,
was it 12 or 13?
I would
Right.
say actually, I got it over there. I'm not going to get up and look,
That's
but
fine.
I would say that from 78 until the last worldwide,
Uh,
in total, I probably missed 6 or 7 and was there for all the rest of them,
MC
either
the whole
as a
time.
either as a performer, and when I stopped performing, then I was either there on, when I worked at Air Force Entertainment, because I worked at Air Force Entertainment for almost 3 years.
Hmm.
Um, and then I was always there as a volunteer
Yeah.
because every time there was worldwide, unless I just had something going on, like I was overseas or something like that,
Hmm.
I would always come to worldwide.
Yeah.
And I would either host, I would be the MC, I would help with the auditions. The biggest thrill for me was the last worldwide that I was at. I was a judge.
Oh, that's
So
right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
that was the biggest
Wow.
thrill in my life. For being part
Be
of
a
worldwide.
judge.
That was just,
Yeah. I mean, the judges, what were the, do you remember any of the judges back in your first worldwides?
oh yeah. I still remember some of those
Yeah,
people.
let's list off some of these judges. Go ahead.
Okay, okay, okay. So we had Maceo Parker, who was in James Brown's band.
No
He
way.
was he was one of the judges. We had, for me, one of the big thrills, Fred Travellina, who was a great impressionist. He was one of the judges. We
I'm
had
not
we
familiar with that
had
name.
we had yeah, yeah, yeah. Fred Travellina was he was around the same time as Rich Little,
Okay.
Frank Gorshin, around their time frame. Fred was a little younger than Rich Little. He was more new on the scene. But actually, it was 80. I want to say it was 81 that he was the judge.
Hmm.
One of the sisters from Sister Sledge was a judge. Barbara
Oh, wow.
Mantrell's sister was a judge. Um, we had Jerry Van Dyke was a judge one year. Several TV actors that I recall, that most people probably won't remember at this point in time, but they were judges. It was always celebrities. I
Yeah.
mean, Tom was always bringing in these heavy hitters, and it was just meeting these people was like, oh my gosh, I know you
Yeah.
from TV.
Yeah. I remember in the 91 were my first worldwide, Barry
Hmm.
White,
Hmm.
Marianne from Gilligan's Island,
Oh yes.
and the gal from Knight Rider. I can't remember her name. I can't
Oh
think of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I know
Barry
you talking.
White, performing for Barry White.
Oh, I know, right?
What? What? Well, it was interesting because you had your judges that were part of the industry, like producers and whatnot, that you wouldn't did your tape with
Right, for the
made the finals,
preliminaries.
and then the finals were the big dogs.
Finals
It
were the
was
big dogs.
incredible.
Yeah,
It was
finals were the big
incredible.
dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. I think I fit everything here. I wrote down so much stuff. I think we've covered it all. Before we end this thing, tell the folks what you got going on right now.
So these days, I about, oh goodness, it's been almost 10 years now. I was still doing stand-up comedy, and I had such a wonderful career doing that. I did that for 40 years.
Mhm.
Had so much success, performed in Vegas, got to open for a lot of big celebrities, meet a lot of people. Loved that job, loved doing that. But about going on 10 years now, I got this, what I feel is a calling. I'm very spiritual and a Christ follower, and I believe that I was called to do something different. And that something different was to sing for the seniors. Now,
Oh, do tell.
granted, I had been singing because I was singing in theater and doing musicals, and
Uh-huh.
I'd actually put together a trio of performers. It was me and another vocalist, female vocalist, and a young lady who was our comic relief, if you will. We were doing shows and we were traveling and doing some shows. I did some military bases with our shows, and that was great. And I enjoyed that. But I suddenly got this calling, and literally, it was almost a voice telling me it's enough already with the comedy. So
Oh,
this is my new charge. This is what I want you to do. So all the other stuff you've done has
mhm.
led to this moment. And so I was like, I gotta go do this. At the time, I was probably doing about 40 or 50 shows a year
Mhm.
as a stand-up comedian and actor. And I'm like, that's a lot to give up.
That's
But
that's a
I'm listening
ton.
to the voice, and the voice is telling me this is what I want you to do. And so I said, okay, leap of faith, I'm gonna do it. So I started with a couple of places, wrote a quick 1 hour music show, using my voice impressions of, Nat King Cole and Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, and a few others. Um, and started that year. And that year I did 57 shows
Did
of
you just
that.
say 57?
57. Yeah. So I was like, okay. So then I started expanding and I wrote a few more shows and went to some more places. The next year I did 93 shows. And now it's like, yeah, I'm on to something here. This sounds like something I'm supposed to be doing. And mind you, other than Tops and Blue years, most of the years I was doing like 40 or 50 shows a year. So I was doing a show like every week,
Mhm.
and I thought that was a lot. But now all of
Right.
a sudden this 1 year I'm doing like 93 shows. Well, fast forward, Dave, since that time, since that 93, the year when I did the 93 shows,
Mhm.
I have never done less than 100 shows every single year.
That's
Not
mind
less than
blowing.
100.
That's mind blowing.
Yeah. I have 158 this year. I had 165
You just say
last year.
158?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is my computer acting up? Am I hearing this stuff right?
And
Dude.
these are shows singing at the senior committees. And here's the thing that blows people's mind because they say to me, well, okay, every year. Yeah, except, right, the COVID year, right? No,
Okay.
not
No.
not except the COVID year.
You were out there.
I did 100 shows the COVID year. I still did 100 shows.
Oh, to be fair, we needed that.
And they said, well, but wait, no, how could you? No, because you couldn't be going to these places and performing during
Right.
COVID.
Right.
Well, I found a way.
Was it this thing?
I said, I did video shows.
There we go.
I said, I built a glass screen, a plexiglass screen that allowed me to still go to these places and perform
That's
away
creative.
from the audience,
Right.
but in person
Right.
at places because they needed this entertainment. These
Yes.
seniors needed this entertainment. And they said, is there any way? Can you sing with a mask? I'm like, I can't sing with a mask. That I
Yeah.
can't do. But here's what I can do.
Yeah.
I said, I did shows over the phone. I had places, a couple of places where they said, we know you can't come, but if we
Yeah.
put you on speakerphone,
I was gonna say, TA, are you on the line? Okay, go ahead.
could you sing for an hour on the phone? I'm like, I can do anything you want me to do. I'm like, look, God told me to do this work. So
Yeah.
I'm sure anything you need me to do, I'll figure out
I'll
a
do
way
it.
how to, you
Right.
know. So
Right.
even the COVID year, I did 100 shows. And I had a whole bunch of shows canceled because I couldn't go because,
Right.
the COVID, whatever. But and after that year, it's been on the average about 140, 150 a year. So here, let me really blow your mind.
Okay. Like you
So I
have
had
it
I
already.
have
Go ahead.
158 I have 158 shows this year. I have 38 shows booked for 2026 already. Now, already.
That's TA, how are you doing this? I mean, I'm a pretty spry. I'm in probably better health than I was when I was in the military. I'm a pretty spry guy. How are you doing this? like you said, it was a calling, so I understand that.
Yeah.
But still, physically, how are you? It's amazing. It's amazing to me.
Dave, I don't know.
I mean, hey, first of all, let me just start with this. You look great. You don't look
Thank you.
you're not you don't even look even close to what your age is. I mean, you look
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you. I wish I could tell you, and I have people asking me that all the time. They said, "Well, how at this age are you able to still be doing all of these shows?" And I'm like, I don't know. I'm doing what I was told to do. I was
Yeah,
told to do this.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
gonna make a way,
yeah,
and until if the wheels fall off and then I can't do it anymore, then I'll stop. I
yeah.
said, but as long as I can sing, as long as I can still get there, I said I'm
So
good.
that
I'm good there.
so that's the plan then. There's no plan of retirement right
Oh no.
away.
No, no, no.
Okay.
No,
Oh, I really
retired
love
from
that.
my regular job. It's been almost 11 years now. And I've been so since for the last 10 years, this is what I've been doing. This is my life. This is what I love.
Oh, see,
Um,
that's
I told you I started out, I wrote one show,
hmm
and then because they wanted me to come back, I wrote a second show,
hmm
and then I wrote a third one, and now I have 22 one-man shows.
God
Covering
bless
all
you, PA.
from the
Holy
40s,
cow.
from the 40s to the 70s, rock and roll, jazz, standards, tribute shows, just a little bit of everything. But I love performing for the seniors. This for me is my new Tops in Blue.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. I
This is
gotta
my
tell you.
this is my new Tops in Blue. I get to go out and perform for these seniors and bring back memories for them and let them know that there's somebody out there that cares and loves them and that they still matter
Yeah,
and that for at least an hour,
yeah. Let them
you
forget
know,
about life for an hour.
they can
Yeah.
forget about everything else that's going on and just be joyous.
What's your performance footprint? How far out do you go?
Um, I go, so I'm in the Phoenix area, but I perform all over the valley. And my furthest place that I go to is about 140 miles away.
Mhm.
So I spread out. I'll go anywhere that I can actually get to. Wherever they're willing to have me, just so that I can reach these people because,
Yeah.
for me, I see it as an underserved population.
Well, it's
And
like
granted,
doing remotes, right?
there are
It's
a
like
lot
doing
of
remotes
people.
back in the day when we had to do remote
Oh
shows
yeah,
for the troops. Same
yeah,
thing.
well,
Same
exactly.
deal.
And that's really it. And again, for me, this is what all part of what Thompson Blue taught me, the
Mhm.
value of doing what we do.
Yep.
I
Well,
remember those places we went to. I remember some of the small sites where, I remember, and it's in the book, that one incident at Diabaker,
mhm.
where at the end of the show, those people didn't even clap
Yeah.
because they were just so overcome with emotion. And it
Yeah.
was like, and that one lady came up to me and said, "You don't know what this means to us. We don't get to see anything American. We don't hear American music. We don't get the newspaper. We don't watch, we have nothing here.
Yeah.
But the fact that you took your time on your day off and flew here to happen, because Jim told us about that and wanted us to do it, and we were like, yeah.
And
The
she
fact that
wasn't
you
exaggerating. Diakober, there's nothing to do there.
no,
She
and it's
wasn't
like
exaggerating.
the fact that you did that just meant the world to us. That I was just like, so for me, when I go to these senior places and I see these people, and I have people coming up to me and telling me, "Oh, you sang a song that I remember when I was in high school, and me and my husband, oh, he's
It
dead
just all
now,
comes back. Just all starts
it
flooding back
all
to
just,
you.
I
Yeah.
remember we danced to this song and it just brought back these wonderful memories. And they got tears in their eyes. And I'm just like, oh, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I have to be out there for these people. This is important work. And I'm just going to keep doing it until I cannot physically do it anymore. So that might be, it could be next year. I don't know. It might be 10 years.
Could be a
Whatever,
week from Friday. I
whatever it
don't
is.
know. Wow. Well, you are a good man, TA. You are
Thank you, Dave, man. I
I mean,
appreciate it.
I talked to the Cleels and the Waltz and the Antoines and all these folks that came after you. I'm in the again the big book of blue here. I'm looking at the comedy section and I'm seeing your picture next to Frank Gorshin and Jerry Van Dyke.
Jerry Van
You got
Dyke. Yep.
Cleo and Walt and Antoine. I think Rich Bailey was in there and all these other cats. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
this is a group right here. And
Yeah.
and it's such a joy to talk to you, old friend.
Man, I appreciate it. I really do. I love talking about old times. I love talking about
Yeah,
Thompson
who
Blue.
doesn't?
I just love sharing. Yeah, you know how we are. You know how it
Yeah.
is.
We should just have an old time old time cat thing, just an old time
I
chat.
think they call that a reunion.
A reunion, yes. Yeah, but even if we have to do it on a laptop, that's fine. Yeah. Wow.
Oh man,
Well, I'm
this has
taking
been
much of your
great.
time.
This has been. No, wait. Now, before you
Oh,
go,
go ahead. Hit me.
because I don't know if anybody else who's on your show does this.
Go ahead.
Dave,
Yeah.
what are you doing, my friend? What are you
I
up
am
to?
fully
I want to.
retired.
Okay.
I retired from the Air Force in 2000. I retired from Verizon 3 years ago this July.
Okay.
Uh, I did rideshare. I did Uber and Lyft for 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
which was a complete, you want to talk about entertaining. I had my
Oh,
car set up with
I'm
lights.
sure. I'm sure.
I mean, I did the full blown thing. I stopped doing that in January. My wife said, we don't need to do it anymore. We're fine. You're good to go. You can just
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just fully retired. So now my whole life right now, my daughter's family lives across town. So I see my grandkids almost every day.
Wonderful.
My granddaughter plays violin. So
Awesome.
I'm trying to help with, actually, she's helping me with music now. You know, you can see some stuff behind me there.
I do.
I still dabble with, with the bass.
Okay.
Play a little bit of guitar, but bass is still my thing. I'm not in any bands anymore. Every once in
Okay.
a while, somebody will call up and say, hey, Dave, listen to this piece of music. Can you throw a bass line on there? Tell me what you think, blah, blah, blah. But
Mm-hmm.
my band days are done. I'm an official music hobbyist.
Okay.
I guess that's the best way to put it. Is the best way to put it.
All good.
Yeah, my 43rd anniversary is coming up in
Ah,
July. My dog, I got 4 grandkids, 18, 16, 5, and 3.
love it.
Yeah, it's really, and I have time to do this.
See?
And I have time to do this now.
There you go.
So, and
There you-
I've been having a ball talking to priors.
Oh man. Well, listen, this is
It's
much
just been a complete
appreciated,
treat.
man. This is the kind of thing that keeps our family together. And
Yeah, and that's what I missed. That was the main reason I did this, because I missed talking to these folks. I missed going back to Worldwide and
mm-hmm.
shooting the crap and helping the folks come up through the system. I missed all that,
Yeah.
and I got the impression of the last few years things were just kind of like really starting to thin out with the priors.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, I'm gonna see if I can't. I was thinking,
Yeah.
has anybody else tried this? I mean, every living organism does a podcast now.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
I'm thinking,
absolutely.
let me have a whack at this. So that's why I invented the Priory. So
Man, I'm so glad you did it. I'm just so thankful and blessed that you invited me to be on it. And I just
oh
thank you so much, man. I really
no,
appreciate you.
no, thank you, old friend. So anything else you got for me? Any questions you got? Anything else?
No, but we're just gonna press on and
Yeah, we are.
just keep having family on, man, because that way we stay up to
I'm
date
trying to
with
do one a week.
what folks
Yep.
are doing. So
Yep. If you
all
come,
good.
please, if you come to the Pittsburgh area, I'm just north of Pittsburgh up here in Butler, PA. If you come to this area,
Okay.
please.
And I might be because I have a niece that lives in Pittsburgh. And so we keep
Oh,
saying we're gonna come visit us sometime. And if I get out that way, I will definitely let
if
you
you
know.
need somebody to squire you around, let me know.
Okay, you
Oh,
got it.
speaking of squiring around, you'll love this. Dennis Miller.
hmm
Dennis Miller, Saturday Night Live comedian. He had a podcast. It was a call-in podcast a few years ago. I made Dennis Miller 3 times. I got through his line. I
Uh-huh.
made Dennis Miller laugh 3 times. Hard laughs. Dennis Miller.
That's good. That's
Where I'm
good.
like, I'm good now. I
See,
made
you're
Dennis
good.
Miller laugh.
You
So
don't need any validation either.
no, I'm good. I'm good. So I just thought that was a fun story, because I remember stuff like that. Just
Awesome.
it sticks out in your head. So you just want to share
Awesome.
that kind of thing. All right, old friend. Well, much love to you. Please give your best to your bride,
I
and thank you so
will.
much for
And
coming
the
on.
same to you, man. Same to your bride as well.
I will. So the game plan is I will, when we get done here, I'll do some editing. I don't
Okay.
think I'm gonna delete anything. It all was great. So I'll send you a little note when it goes out on YouTube. All right.
Perfect.
All right,
All
old
right,
friend.
my friend. Love you,
Thank
my
you,
brother.
TA.
All
Appreciate it,
right.
man. Much love.